You're watching Up with Creme.
Welcome back. Well, a few weeks ago, popular children's star JoJo Siwa revealed to the public she has a girlfriend. Now, JoJo was met with massive support online for sharing her identity. At the same time, she did face some backlash from parents. Now, this morning, we have an expert with us to share how to talk to your children about gender and sexuality. We reached out to the Spectrum Center of Spokane. It's a new organization advocating for inclusion. So this morning we are joined by the Director of Education, SR. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Great to have you with us this morning as we talk about this topic. I think a lot of people might feel lost on where they would even start. So where's a good starting point for parents and children to have that conversation about gender and sexuality?
Absolutely. I think feeling lost is totally normal. I think that a good starting point is just opening up the conversation and saying, and affirming curiosity and saying, hey, are you curious? Do you have questions? What sort of questions do you have? And really going from there. I think that that's a great starting point.
Now, with JoJo Siwa, of course, she has a young following. What kind of impact does it have for kids to see one of their idols being so open about their sexuality?
I think that it's a really important impact. I think that it's normalizing that people can love and exist in all sorts of different ways. And so it's just showing that, again, it's normalizing. So it's showing that people can exist and operate in all sorts of different ways in this world, and that's totally okay.
Now, when parents are talking to their kids about this topic, I mean, what's a conversation starter? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, absolutely. So a conversation starter can be as simple as, hey, I know that you listen to JoJo, and I know that you've been talking, or I know that this has been on the news. What do you think about this? And starting as simple as that. I think a lot of times as adults, we tend to really want to complicate things, and oftentimes our children and our young people want to have conversations with us. And so leaving the ball in their court and keeping it simple and letting them guide the conversation can be a super appropriate and awesome way to start.
And for parents who have kids of different ages, should they approach that differently?
Absolutely. I think that it can depend. I think that age-appropriate conversations are super important, and so I always tell parents that they know their children best, and you are going to know what's age-appropriate. And so if you have a 17-year-old and a 4-year-old, I think that you're probably having conversations with them differently about different things as it is. And so that conversation is probably going to look different. But again, parents know age-appropriate conversations around most other things, and there are tons of awesome resources. One awesome resource that I always recommend and kind of point people to is Planned Parenthood actually has a age section by age section, like, do you have a first grader or a high schooler or whatever, specifically to talk about identity and not talking about reproduction or anything like that, just talking about identity. And so that's a great resource to look at.
And if people are looking for a community here in Spokane or maybe looking for support here locally, where can they find that?
Absolutely. So Spectrum is available online, but especially if you have youth that are like in the process of coming out or wanting to explore, I would really recommend the Odyssey Youth Movement. Even though COVID has us operating in different ways, they're still doing drop-in hours, and so virtual drop-in hours, and so that's a great way to connect with, for young people to connect with other young people and start exploring and having conversations on their own, which is sometimes just as important as talking with us adults.
Well, SR, I want to thank you for being with us this morning, helping us navigate these conversations and just giving a good starting point for a lot of parents and their kids.
Absolutely. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, SR, and thanks for being with us here. You're watching Up with Creme.